So in this video, I sit down with Uncle Luke from Luke's Points and Miles, and we discuss our top 5 credit cards that maximize our travel upside. You'll see that we both have different viewpoints on what that means to us, and even though we only have one card in common, both setups are very powerful. Now you'll see that we chose cards with some pretty high annual fees, with Luke's setup weighing in at $2,840 and my own setup weighing in at $1,415. But when it comes to travel credit cards with big benefits, this is very much a pay-to-play system. So I hope you enjoy our takes, and make sure to comment down below to let us know what you think. And with that being said, let's jump right in. So the first question set's going to be credit card setups. That's the theme of the questions we have here. So a lot of these are going to go into that. So we just talked about having a core credit card setup, and we're going to kind of switch up a bit because this next question is from my boy, Matt Welter, who does ask, let's go. You guys each have 5 credit cards and have to create the best possible setup designed at maximizing travel upside. Which cards would you go with? I'll throw it to you first, Luke. What do you think?
All right. So let's say I'm a young guy. I like traveling. I'm doing well for myself, and I want to figure out how to maximize my travel upside. To me, that means I'm not as much interested in the accumulation of points and miles or categories. What cards can give me the biggest, coolest, most luxurious trip? And I'm going to go with the American Express Platinum, the Big Daddy. I want the lounge access. I want the fine hotels and resorts, and I want the customer service, and I want everything that comes with American Express. Number 2, I'm going with the Chase Sapphire Reserve. I want the lounge access that comes with that. I want the travel protections that come with that. And I want the transfer partners. Well, let's not worry about transfer partners. Number 3, I want the Capital One Venture X. Again, I want the lounge access. Guys, if you haven't noticed, but I want access to every lounge there possibly is, because I have a real problem with not being allowed in spaces. I want to be allowed in those lounges. Number 4, American Express Hilton Aspire card. I want to stay in the Conrads, the Waldorfs. I want the food and beverage credit. I want the diamond status. I want upgrades, all that good stuff. And my number 5 might surprise some people, but I want that high-end American Express Marriott card. I want the platinum status there. I want the benefits that card gives. So with that setup, I have all the lounges. I have all the extra kind of cool programs, and I have benefits and status with the 2 largest hotel chains that I care about. And I have a lot of annual fees.
That's a lot of annual fees, Uncle Luke. But no, I think that's great though. That's a great setup to really capture, like you said, it's really what you prioritize, right? So you're prioritizing lounge access. You're really prioritizing those high hotel status. And clearly, you may feel a certain way about airline credit cards because there's none of that in your setup. I don't want to. You want to comment on that a little bit?
Well, I will stand on this for. I have to use my perspective, and my perspective is I can't give any airline any undue loyalty because I fly in a smaller airport that doesn't have a primary carrier. And then here's the thing, man. You could be a Delta loyalist. You can be an American loyalist. You're still probably going to take, Singapore Airlines to Frankfurt, Germany. So you're not using those airlines. You're still going to take, whoever Air Canada is partnering with. You're going to take Etihad. You're going to take Emirates. You're going to do Emirates from New York to Greece. So what does your United status have anything to do with that? I mean, it does help, but I don't have any reason to give any airlines any loyalty unless it's something that's super convenient and easy for me to do. Hotels, on the other hand, you're going to have a really hard time not being able to use the benefits and status from Marriott and Hilton. Might not be the best for you, but to me, that's going to be very difficult for that not to work out for you on planet Earth, not just in the Midwest or Southern Florida, but on planet Earth.
Sure. And we all know that internationally, those statuses do go a long way, especially with upgrades and benefits and perks. So having that's really helpful. And that's actually a good segue into what I'm going to ask, or I'm going to say about my own 5 credit card setup, which is a little bit different. It's not something that I think a lot of people may predict, but maybe you will. But it's really about focusing on hotel credit cards and hotel benefits. And as you all know, I'm a big fan of the Marriott system. So the 4 cards that I'm going to use are obviously from the Marriott system are number 1, the Ritz Carlton card. I think it's a highly underrated card because it has a lower annual fee of 450. It's got that 300 travel credit, or I guess air incidental credit you can use to offset it. But what's important is it gets the free night award after every year after the first card anniversary, but it also gets you that priority pass. And that priority pass is one of the most powerful priority passes in the game, secondary to the Chase Sapphire Reserve. And so you do get that lounge X with a priority pass. You get free authorized users all the way across, with each getting their own priority pass with their own 2 free guests, obviously lounge permitting. But you can get into the Sapphire Lounge with that. And it won't get you into Centurion lounges necessarily, but it will get you into a lot of the other lounges that accept priority pass, including the Chase lounges. So that's the Ritz Carlton card. I do agree with you. This is the one card we have that's similar, is the Marriott Bonvoy Brilliant card for that platinum status at Marriott, also generating the 85K free on award. I do also want to put in the Marriott Bonvoy Business card, which is the Amex card, as well as the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless card from Chase. So you have some Chase cards, some Amex cards, so you have that opportunity to use Chase cards internationally, so you don't have that foreign transaction issue where they don't take American Express, so that's helpful. But now you have a setup with those 4 cards that you're generating 2 85K free night awards every year, and you're generating 2 35K free night awards every year. And if you look at the cards together as a whole setup, it covers a lot of major categories at the 3x or 2x level. Not the same, of course, as MR points and UR points, but if you're gunning for a certain hotel chain or certain brand, that is very helpful. So you have, for example, 3x on groceries on the Boundless card, up to $6,000 a year. You have 4x on restaurants and gas on the Bonvoy Business card. You have 3x on the Brilliant for the flights. So you can really start to churn out a lot of points with Marriott. Having said that, I understand Marriott points are not as valuable as, for example, Hyatt or even Hilton for that matter. But again, it's a matter of personal preference. So you have a card setup where you can have spending multipliers that are pretty good. You're generating all these different free awards every single year. But I have one card that's missing. And actually, for me, I think an airline card is helpful because you have to travel somewhere to get the hotels, right? And so I actually would choose the United Explorer card. And the reason why I say that is because you get the 2 benefits I think are the most important, at least to me, and easiest to use, which would be the priority boarding and the first free check bag for you and a guest. Priority boarding for me is like a must because I love getting into the aircraft and being able to sit down and put my bag where I want to. I don't have to like be anxious about not having space for my bag, or where am I sitting, in the front or the back? What's my boarding group going to be? I have that sense of peace and I guess tranquility that I'm not going to have to worry about that. And then obviously with the first check bag situation, you will get as many value back as many times you do that. One thing I want to mention though with Marriott though is if you actually get from platinum to titanium, that's a separate story where you have 40 elite night credits. You only need 30 more to get to 30, I think it's 35 more to the titanium elite. You also get United Premier Silver at that point. So that would actually negate the use of that United Explorer card. So you could replace that with something else if you decide to stay at Marriott's for that long of a period, knowing that even award stays count for those elite night credits. And so those are the 5 cards I would use for my setup. And it's totally kind of out of left field, but I think it would work out if you're really valuing what I just talked about in terms of those credit cards.
Yeah, especially if you have the benefit of kind of focusing on Marriott. If you can focus, and Marriott has a gigantic footprint, so you can. I think it's great.
Yeah, and it looks like Chad has a setup as well. He's saying he's going to go Amex Plat, Amex Green, Aspire, Venture X. See, it's very close to what you have, actually, Uncle Luke, except he has the green instead of one of the cards that you had. I can't remember off the top of my head. Looks like it covers every category with transferable points, no foreign transaction fees, and remember, traveling isn't all about planes and hotels. You have to still live when you get there, which is very true. You definitely want to make sure you have the cash back to do all the things you want to do while you're there.
My only thing about that is I don't know if the Amex Green will help me maximize my travel upside. It may help me earn points, but as far as what will it do for me while I'm traveling?
I think he's like, is at that restaurant, 3x restaurants, that could help, I guess, for multipliers. You got the 2x on that Venture X too, so I guess that would be helpful. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good thought about this the setup as well. Evan, we all have different setups, so it's going to be very, very interesting when we kind of look at that.
No, that's definitely an awesome setup.
Yeah. So thanks for that, Chad. Ms. Pino also adds that the +2 United Club passes every year. That's true for the Explorer card. That's also very helpful because United doesn't have any ability to get into them except for like the United Club card or if you pay for it outright. So it does help to have those club passes as the Platinum doesn't cover it, or sometimes the Lounge Bar doesn't cover it either. Keith House says, I think it depends on what city you fly out of and cities that you fly into most often. I think the CSR would be a hitter flying out of New York City and probably past restaurants. I'm PCing to it in May when I first can. I think he's talking about the CSR, which is, I think, everyone's new favorite card these days.
Yeah, I think that the Platinum would, if in New York City, the Platinum's going to get you. There's a Centurion and all that, and maybe not in Newark, but there's plans to open a Centurion. So with the Platinum, you get the Centurion in LaGuardia and JFK. And if you're flying Delta, you'd get access to the Sky, which I'm a big fan of the Sky Clubs. If I flew Delta, I would probably forego the Centurion Lounge to go to a lot of Sky Clubs. And the only way to really get into there is the Platinum card. Well, besides the co-branded Delta cards.
Yeah, of course. DC and Don DC also says United Business Card and Gateway Personal. This is a really nice one because it's a combination. You get, I believe it's like 5,000 miles or something like that. When you have a business card as well as a personal card, you get some kind of annual credit to that or annual mileage boost. So it's definitely something to think about too if you're a United fan. We do have a super chat from my boy Nkosi, $10 spot. Thank you so much, sir. Stan, does Amex want to tell us how, what, and when to spend? Example, biannually, quarterly, monthly, weekly. The MR Points Luxury International Travel proposition keeps me in man. Luke's congrats on 15K CSR.
Thank you, sir.
CSR,
we'll see.
For you? What do you think?
We'll see. I've been going over it a lot lately. And you know how when a lot of us in this game, sometimes we go to bed at night thinking about this stuff. And like trying to go to sleep the other night, the CSR really popped into my head for a few different reasons. I have to consider it, but we'll see. It's right now. I can't give you an answer, but I think April 1st or May 1st will be the decision on what I do with my Sapphire Preferred, which I do not need at all. So the Sapphire Preferred will either go to a Freedom Flex or a CSR. And here's the thing, Stan, the Freedom Flex, I know so many people really like it, but the 5 times on a capped spend, it does not move the needle for me. It just doesn't. Like $1,500 spent in a quarter doesn't really garner my attention, especially when I can get that same 5 times with my Chase Ink Cash all year long.
I totally agree with that. I mean, it depends on the person and your spending, clearly. But yeah, I think that it depends on if you have an uncapped versus a much higher cap, that's going to be much better for you in terms of planning out the way you spend money. And so having that limited cap is hard, especially if you have, one card like that. If you have like multiple freedoms and like a Freedom Flex, that's fine. But there's also you have to start to divide things up too. That's also kind
it's
of
more work.
So
it's more work.